There we go. And
Hey guys, how the heck are you?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Yeah, phenomenal. So please tell people out there, prospective viewers, what they're going to get with your documentary, Disposable Humanity.
This is a first of its kind documentary that looks into the history and memory of the Nazi Action T4 program, which targeted disabled people and catalyzed the Holocaust. My family kind of serves as investigative journalists that look into the past and try to understand how we've arrived in the present day without really any understanding or awareness of this program, which is the hinge that makes the Holocaust possible. And we're coming to you today from the DGA Theater, where Slamdance is hosting its opening night, and we're very excited to be here.
Yeah. People but most often think that the Nazis planned on killing Jewish people right from the beginning, but actually the plan was just deportation to Madagascar, Siberia, Lublin. And the reason why they didn't end up doing that is because the killing program in psychiatric institutions was so effective.
Okay, and talk about that being a catalyst to the Holocaust.
The One, they developed all the mass killing apparatus in the basements of psychiatric institutions. They had doctors who ran the carbon monoxide gas that killed the patients that were in the gas chamber because they always wanted it to appear to be a medical intervention. They had like a medical veneer, and that was true all the way through the Holocaust. They kept that all the way into Poland when Jewish people were deported there.
Would you say there's sort of like a dehumanizing logic to this program in the Holocaust?
I'd say it's pretty dehumanizing. It's based on the idea of ability to work. And if you couldn't work even within the walls of the psychiatric institution, your paperwork was sent to a villa in Berlin, and it was marked with either a red plus or a blue minus in order to select who should be killed and who should be preserved.
Very
And
scary stuff. Tell me about
yeah,
coming up with the title, Disposable Humanity.
so the title actually just happened while we were filming. We were on a train to Auschwitz to visit the memorial and the site of the ruins of Auschwitz and Auschwitz II and Birkenau. I was just filming my dad and my mom on the train after we had, the difference between this film and A Real Pain is that if you've seen A Real Pain, there's a scene where the tour group gets on a train, and Kieran Culkin is kind of has a breakdown on the train. Can't quite handle the dichotomy or like what's going on between the present and the fact that they're just like enjoying themselves and this horrific like tour that they're on about the past. The thing that is different about our film is that they while they get on the train easily, and it's kind of an afterthought. I we end up having to carry my dad onto the train, with the help of some staff. Even though these trains are supposed to be accessible, we're told that there are only four disabled Germans, and that there's certain trains that are and aren't accessible. So just like that whole experience is the kind of the opening of the film. And so it really kind of sets the tone for the world that we're bringing you into, where the involvement of disabled people is kind of an afterthought in their own history. So that's after that moment is actually where the title of the film comes from. I'm talking to him about, the train that we're in currently, and the irony of being on a train going to Auschwitz while thinking about the trains that they would shuttle victims of the Holocaust in. And then he just kind of comes out and says that it was thought of as they were thought of as disposable humanity. And that stuck. And that was in 2017 when when we were on that train. And then it took, since then to edit it and to get it to the final cut here. So principal photography was over 2 months over the summer in 2017, and we went all around Germany and to Poland and to Austria. And because my goal with the film was I wanted it to be all encompassing. I wanted it to use the medium of film to time travel and to tie all of these places together, because that it kind of is an act of resistance against what the Nazis intended, which was to shuttle people around and to use the bureaucracy of hospitals and institutions to hide the crimes. So film kind of allows us to actively in the contemporary moment fight back against that confusion and that jumblement, and to unwrap and unravel what they've done.
Right. And I was interested in the documentary. It's mentioned that this was originally going to be material for students in lectures. And was there someone who changed that? At what point was that not going to be the plan anymore?
Well, my folks are academics first, and their work in disability studies is well known internationally in the field. And I, being a filmmaker, wanted to bring that to a larger audience. So their way or method of kind of spreading remembrance and education and knowledge was through university and class and teaching. And I wanted to bring that into film and use the big platform that film has to reach a wider audience.
Oh, it was a great idea. And let's talk about the museum where the death camp is. And tell me a bit about some of your concerns with how that place is operating.
Depends which one you're talking about, but the memorials themselves, where the killing centers for Action T4 took place, they're almost all inaccessible because the people who planned the memorials, and they were very grassroots efforts at the institutions themselves, didn't anticipate that disabled people would want access to their own history.
Hmm.
So they set them up as like cautionary tales for future people in medicine. That was their original purpose. And then we kept bringing our students back and forth there, and they would come out and tell us, "No, you can't have any access here. There's no way to get downstairs." And we would be just like, "Yeah, well, we'll make it happen." And we kept on coming until they made them accessible.
That's great,
Yeah.
as it should have been all
Yes,
along.
definitely.
Yeah, but I think that speaks to kind of like to your point, the dehumanization that disabled people experienced during this period of time, but also after, because you saw that in the Nuremberg trials and the doctors' trials, that the crimes weren't even able to be prosecuted because there was bias, I think, from the prosecutors about whether these crimes were to be held accountable. The Germans, the Nazis called it Gnadentod, mercy death. And the fervor of eugenics swept internationally. So doctors everywhere believed in sterilization and forcible sterilization, and in this curation of the gene pool, so to speak. And it really, I think we lose that in the contemporary tellings of history. That there's a lot of distance put there in the retelling and also in the modern euthanasia movement. There's a lot of kind of restriction and a lot of boundaries put up. And, our goal is to dismantle those boundaries and take them down, and really look at this from the perspective of disabled people.
Do you fear in Europe and perhaps elsewhere in North America, where we're talking from, do you fear that Nazism isn't truly gone? It's merely underground to an extent?
Well, it's not underground, it's above ground now. We keep having U-Hauls dropping off neo-Nazis in various American towns. I think, we have an administration that's very vocally and openly and publicly announced Nazism as a part of its plan, of its vision for the United States. This has been done through social media, but also through proclamations, executive orders from the White House that have named people who have mental illnesses as a cost expenditure that hurts America.
Well,
Um, and that is eugenics. That statement is eugenics. And I think it's really important for people to understand that when you say something like, the mental health industry has cost us $3.4 trillion, and you put the target on the back of disabled people, that is eugenics. Cost benefit analysis was at the heart of how the Nazis pitched their ideas, so to speak, to the public. They often had math problems where they would have students calculate the cost saving measures, how much money you would save if a certain number of hospital beds were empty. And that's the terminology that they would use too. So it's really a multifaceted approach, and it's important to understand how media plays a part in sowing that support. The Nazis understood this very well, and which is why they ran propaganda films in front of movies in theaters like the one that we're in Germany, in order to sow a public consent of sterilization and then eventually eugenics, euthanasia.
Yeah, I think there was a normalization too, just to show these trailers about abject disabled people in front of feature films, which the Nazis did as one of their strategies. And even in the recent Washington, D.C. plane crash with the Black Hawk helicopter, which was tragic, Trump immediately jumped to that must be people who are mentally incompetent behind the traffic control tower. So it's definitely not underground.
okay. All right. Okay, I yield. Um,
And I just to
now.
finish on that, I think it's really important to understand in this contemporary moment that this is being done publicly.
Hmm.
During the Third Reich, it was done very in secret, and a lot of things were under wraps. If you put it out publicly, you kind of allow for a litmus test to see what is allowable, to see what the public will allow to occur. And so I think it's really important, if you were to take one lesson away from T4 or the film, it would be that resistance is the thing that would have unraveled the T4 program, which is the argument that's made at the doctor's trials. Leon Jaworski, the prosecutor at Watergate, he makes this argument and basically demonstrates that if any cog in the process any person had stood up and said no, that the whole thing would have fallen apart. So it's, the Nazis used the bureaucracy of institutions and hospitals in order to well this over, and to make it possible. And then, used the staff from it and the technology from that experience to implement the Holocaust.
Okay. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your conversation. I thoroughly appreciate it. It's been a little serious, it's been a little dark, which is important, of course,
Right.
given the subject matter. My final question is, on a lighter note, how does it feel to be at the Slamdance Film Festival?
I mean, it's incredible. We're so honored and excited to be here. Slamdance is a hallmark of the indie filmmaker. And so I couldn't think of a better film festival to show this film at. It's the organization is just so supportive of independent filmmaking, and in a time where we're seeing Hollywood shrink, and the control kind of be held at the top, a festival like Slamdance reminds us and shows us that independent film, independent cinema is where you can have a voice and that you can express yourself, and that there are no restrictions on that, which is really important for independent cinema, the indie filmmaker, and just for freedom of expression in general.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. All the best.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.